This is the Bullseye Podcast.
And we are back. It's amazing watching the numbers grow. The listeners are piling up like nobody's business. Oh, always something new to talk about. And yes, as I said, we are the next big thing. This is Bullseye and the Bullseye Network and the Bullseye Podcast on the Bullseye frequency of your life.
Everybody wants you. Everybody wants your love.
And welcome back to the show.
Hey, you hit it again. You're 100%, man. You hit that timing right before that song goes.
It's all timing on mine. I'm like Ralph Cramden.
What do you practice that 100 times a day
Ralph
to hit that right?
Cramden. It's a mere bag of shells.
Bag of shells, right? Yeah. You're the king of the castle, right?
That was one of your favorite shows of all time, right?
Oh, are you kidding? That was my favorite show. That was the best year of all time for comedy shows. That 1 year, the 39 episodes. I know every one of them, and I could repeat them all. I could watch them over. You could watch them over and over. Like 100 times in a row.
Yes.
And it's still funny. It's still funny. Yeah.
I'm the king of my castle. Remember the one with Harvey?
They were great, man.
Remember the pool match with Harvey?
Yeah,
anyway.
Carlos, the Mamba dancing. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. What sports show? We lead right in with the Honeymooners. Right in.
Yeah.
We got to get some laughs.
Shoot.
How are we doing in sports? Are we playing or what? I mean, you know, I'm boycotting, right? I don't watch the NBA.
Oh,
I could care
less. Are you
less.
officially boycotting?
What? Not the NBA. The NBA is kind of atrocious, don't you think? You watching those games? I mean,
I watched some last week when I was in Massachusetts. I had a night, and what's with the names on the back and the nicknames?
Oh, with the names and the T-shirts and they're even kneeling. I noticed they even kneel to the Canadian national anthem. They hate Canada too, I guess.
Oh yeah,
yeah. They kneeled all the way through. Oh, Canada!
Is it a habit when you just hear any national anthem and you go down?
What a bunch of dopes! I just can't look at them. Oh, what a bunch of morons!
It's not like it was in 1965.
Oh, yeah, right.
You know?
Tell that to Dave Cowens. You think Dave Cowens would have kneeled?
Nah, not those old guys.
Speaking of Dave Cowens, we're talking about the Boston Celtics, which is Ray's favorite team of all times. I figured this is a good time to talk about it because basketball is in the news, and but the teams are not like they were back in the day when we really gave a crap. I just don't care anymore, you know. So
back then, I mean, they even played hard during the All-Star games. You know, now they don't even play until the last two possessions.
No, and then it's all threes, it's all alley oops, it's all
right. Let them score. You know.
Yes, I remember the All-Star game. Remember the All-Star games with Tiny Archibald bringing the ball up court.
Yeah, even as late as that they would try. Right until about the 2000s is when they stopped trying. I mean, it seemed like in the 90s they still wanted to win throughout the whole game.
So
and at some point, though, they just gave up.
No, it's safe to say the NBA sucks. It really does. I mean, there's just nothing. I mean, you see a couple good players.
I'm old school. It's nothing like those old days. I think the further you go back, the better it was back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe peaking in the 90s. 2000s was okay, and it's never been the same for me. So I live in the past.
Yeah, we live in the past.
Fun place to be.
That's when it was, right? When the rims had no give. Boing!
Right. Even the Garden, man, it had that big sound. Boing,
oh, my gosh. It was like when you played in the backyard, you know, and you screwed in the screws real tight on the rim. Boing! No give at all. Now they got give. They can hang on the rim. They can do anything they want. Imagine Chamberlain with a rim like this, forgiving rim. He would have scored even more points.
Yeah, right. Imagine seeing him hanging on a rim, you know. Guy like, you know. Well, those were the days. I mean, you know, you're talking about the Celtics.
So let's talk about the Celtics. You know, when you look back at the team, they were founded in 1946, and then kind of in a matter of years. Do you know what happened between 1946 and when they started to win championships? They got this guy named Red Auerbach. Where'd they get Red Auerbach from? Are you familiar with this?
Oh, Red Auerbach. He came from, was it D.C. or where? He came from somewhere else, right? He came from
intern. Where's the intern? Right off the bat.
Oh, I thought you knew this.
All I remember is he was smoked a cigar. Red Auerbach.
Well, he came to the Celtics around 1950, I think, right around then. And, they drafted the first black player, a guy named Cooper, the Celtics.
No.
They were like pioneers breaking the color barrier. That was like a Celtic thing. It was breaking that.
It was such a racist town, Boston, too, right? I mean, they were not particularly happy about the Celtics
I don't think
team.
so.
Right? Wasn't the story that the fans actually they played in front of some empty stadiums at the beginning because of the racism, right?
Well, that's what Bill Russell was saying. I mean, there were stories of them going into his house and doing bad things on his bed and. Russell differentiated between the Celtics and the city of Boston, So, I mean, that's the way he looked at it. Yeah, I don't think he was a big fan of Boston, and I think there were issues, as far as that goes, But Red Auerbach didn't care. He just wanted to win. That was his whole thing. He doesn't care if you were red, blue, green, or whatever, polka dot,
Now,
if you could play, you were on the team.
And they are the iconic, one of the, I'd say 3 iconic franchises in sports history. The other one being the Yankees. The other one, maybe the Oakland Raiders, in those, in all sports. But definitely the Celtics. Now, they played the Lakers a lot, right, in the championships? How many times did they play the Lakers?
Oh, man, now you're making me go to the intern again.
Well, they won 16 NBA championships, right? Now, is it up to 18, or was that 16 at one time, right? They won 8 in a row. Was that it, or 8 out of 11?
No, they won. Yeah, they won out 11 out of 13.
11 out of 13,
and then they won 13. Yeah, is it still 16, or did they go up to 17? I'm not even sure now.
I think the last time they won was with Pierce, right? Was it with Paul Pierce? Didn't they win it?
So it must be near. It must be over 17. But I'm going to find out how many times they played the Lakers.
2013, I think, something like that. Didn't they win in 2000?
That was it.
2000.
That was okay.
2012,
no.
I think they had Garnett, Pierce, and Allen.
They had here's the championship years in 85, 86, and then they had a long streak to 2007, 2008. That was the year. So, it's been 21 years and 13 years since then. So out of the last 34 years, they won one championship.
Wow, really?
That's a dry spell, yeah.
So if I throw some of these names at you of some ball players, you give me what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Okay, Bill Sharman. Bill Sharman,
early backcourt mate with Bob Cousy, great foul shooter, solid guard, and he was in the early years of Russell. He played the first 5 or 6 years, is my memory of the Russell era.
Right, and he became a coach. Didn't he start coaching the Lakers or something after that?
Yeah, he coached the Lakers. Yeah, at least the Lakers. Yeah, a lot of those Celtics coached too. When they left. I mean, if you notice that, a lot of them became coaches. And I think Sharman was a coach in that championship when the Lakers won 69 games.
I think so. I think Sharman was the coach.
He was the coach.
We're going to overload the intern, so don't freak her out. Move on.
I'm trying to get her to see how many times they beat the Lakers, but we're going to get it. We haven't had it yet, but keep going.
I'll look at it here. We'll find it here. I'm on Wikipedia here, so I think they beat the Lakers. We'll leave that.
I'm going to go 6 times.
Look at here's the name, Casey Jones, another player who became a great coach, right? Casey Jones?
He was one of the early black players. There was Casey, Sam Jones, his brother. Right. Casey was a backcourt guy. He took over really for Sharman when Sharman left. He was a defensive guy, good ball handler. Friends of Bill Russell. He played on the same college team as Russell. See how smart I am? I know all this stuff.
Yeah, you are.
He played on the San Francisco Dons. I always loved his nickname, the Dons.
Right. There was the cool. Mafia. There was the Mafia team.
And, he won a bunch of – he coached, too. And he was one of the 4 black players, Russell, Sam Jones, Casey Jones, and Satch Sanders.
Yeah, well, tell me
Yeah.
about that team. Havlicek, Casey Jones, Sam Jones, Satch Sanders. That was
Tommy Heinsohn. They had Frank Ramsey. Russell, of course. Yeah, they were. Then later Larry Siegfried, and like the fill-in players.
Siegfried. What do you know about Larry Siegfried?
He was like a later guy. He was in the later championships. Who was a point guard guy. I remember he always had that hamstring thing on. The bandages.
Right.
And he was not bad. He was not bad. He was like a cog in the machine. But in the early years, it was Cousy and Russell. I mean, those were the guys. It was Cousy first. Then Russell came. Cousy was the guy. He was like the star of the league. Russell becomes the main guy that gets the championships. Cousy retires like around 62. Then he won like another 6 or 8 in a row. Then Havlicek comes in. Then they bring in a whole bunch of players that Russell always said that he made the players better. That was his thing. Like, him versus Chamberlain, but his argument was, well, I made the players better.
Right.
I mean, I knew how to make each player better. So that was important, like Don Nelson played for the Lakers as a journeyman. He goes to the Celtics and it becomes like a important piece of the puzzle to win the championships. Right. He credits it to Russell. Russell says he knew. For example, Nelson was not a good rebounder, so he used to worry about it in his other, with the Lakers before the Celtics.
Right.
Russell said, "Don't worry about the rebounds. I'm going to get the rebounds. I just want you to worry about shooting the ball and me getting the outlet to you."
Right.
That kind of thing. So Russell was smart enough to make them at ease and say, "You do not worry about rebounds. I know you're a forward. You're not a good rebounder. I'm going to get it." So that kind of stuff. And it was cool that, I think it was really the Russell Auerbach thing that really made it work. They had like a partnership. It wasn't, and Russell even said it. It wasn't like he was the coach to Russell. He was like my partner. So I thought that was an interesting way to put it.
Auerbach did not have any assistant coaches when he took over. He did.
I know.
He coached the team by himself.
Yeah.
No assistants.
Right. No assistants. Right. So what does that tell you?
Right.
What does that tell you?
Genius. That's what that goes to tell you.
Do you really need 25 assistant coaches or whatever it is? Like 8 of them. What do they have now? Like 8 or 10 guys with the clipboards and everything. No, he was a.
What was about his what about his strategy? The offense and all that. I know he ran Russell on the high post a lot. There was a lot of cutting, right? It was always Russell on the high post and a lot of
ball
cutting.
Movement, controlled fast break. I know Russell ran the floor strong. I think it was just a total, passing the ball, like the Knicks of 68, 69, 70.
Right.
The passing, team type work. And, and the defense. I think the defense revolved around Russell. And if someone got by the guard, there's Russell. I heard Russell talk about being caught in switch-offs with Oscar Robertson.
Right.
And he goes, he knew it and I knew it. There was a line. If you sit outside the line, you might get your shot off. But if you come inside your line, I'm going to block your shot.
Right.
So it was just the super intelligence, I think, of the Russell Auerbach combination. That really did it. And he had a nice surrounding base that he made better. They had Havlicek.
Right. Well, your era, I think your heyday era was 1970 to 78. Just the Cowens, Havlicek, JoJo White. Right?
Was.
That was the
I was 10 years old. Yeah, I was at the age.
Right.
Yeah.
That's when you really start to get heat about it. Big Red Dave Cowens had a game. Right. He had that lefty jump shot. He had that hook shot. He had that good outlet pass. I used to like Dave Cowens.
He was solid as anything.
Hustler,
he wasn't
right? Hustler, diving for the ball.
All out hustle. Like, he was the unique center at the time for that 6'8", 6'9" guy. No centers, if you remember back then. You had Nate Thurman. You had, Artist Gilmore. Who else?
Right.
Think of the centers. Bob Lanier. Miller was diving on the floor.
Yeah, but
Walt Bellamy. Willis Reed, great center. Willis wasn't on the ground, right? Diving.
Right. No.
Running the floor. Willis wasn't our floor runner. He had that nice little pull-up jumper. But Cowens was all over the floor. There's a great thing with him and Oscar in 74 on the championship. Remember when he slaps the ball away and he goes with Oscar for the ball and beats him to it and dives on the ground, slides for like 10 feet with the ball?
Yes, I remember that. I do remember that.
Yeah, what center did that? he ran the court. He would go on the fast, and he had that nice little pull up, 12 to 15 footer. That was, great shot.
That's when actually, remember,
Guy.
right?
Yeah.
And he was on the team in '76 when. I think the best series I ever saw was against the Phoenix
That's
Suns.
what I think. Some people disagree. But I mean, how do you beat that series in that one game when it goes 3 overtimes with like 3 last-second shots?
Yeah.
And they almost came back in the third overtime to force a fourth, if you remember.
Yeah.
Westfall almost made a steal at the end that would have made it 4.
Westfall, right? Westfall was with Phoenix, and then he wound up going to the Celtics, right? Westfall after that?
No, he played with the Celtics.
That was on the Celtics
before
that team, right?
Then they traded him for Charlie Scott.
Charlie Scott, North Carolina.
Yeah, he was an ABA guy, right? I think
he was an ABA. He went to North Carolina. He was like one of the first stars in North Carolina, Charlie Scott.
Okay, yeah. So, but that was going back to Cowens, though. I think he was okay. He had Kareem, by far the best center of the '70s. I don't think it's too close, really. I mean, he was the guy. I think Cowens was number 2. I had arguments for Lanier, and I guess Reed only played a few years. And I think Cowens was like number 2. I mean, you had to put him over Wall, and Wall only had a couple good years. Who do you put over Cowens? Like, who would you put over him in the 70s?
I mean, Cowens played like a forward. He was a center. He played like a forward. That's a good point.
Yeah,
Anybody who thinks, call in, email, let us know. Dave Cowens or bust.
He was one of my favorites.
Oh, I mean, he was no Hank Finkel, but what do you want me to tell you? Finkel. I loved Hank Finkel. Tell me about Hank Finkel. I dream about him.
Well, number 29, right? He even had the right number for Hank, right?
Finkel.
I think he played for the Clippers before that. He comes in. He fills the void. Russell retires. They won 11 out of 13.
Right.
Now comes Hank Finkel. I mean, he had the name, too, right? I mean, you couldn't get a better name than that after the Russell era. Yeah, 7 foot tall, looks like Lurch.
He had the mustache, right? He looked like he just came out of a porn movie. He had the mustache. Hank Finkel.
The Bills. I mean, well, I'll tell you, to his credit, he wasn't bad.
Was he bad?
I mean, he would score points. He would score points. And
was he better than Borwinkle?
He was that kind of player. He was that kind of player.
Was he on a par with Borwinkle? No.
That would be a heck of a matchup to watch. I wonder if there's any clips of those two going at it.
Hey, you remember the years when Marvin Barnes played for the Celtics? Remember that, Marvin Barnes?
Yeah, that was becoming the dark era, like about 78. That was when I started to get off it. Until Bird came the next year.
That's the guy. He robs a convenience store and he's got a jacket on that says Marvin Barnes on it. You remember that story?
Yeah, you say it. Yeah,
they go, Marvin Barnes was stole from a store. How do you know? Well, he had a jacket on with his name on it, Marvin Barnes. Dope.
Wasn't his nickname Bad News Barnes?
Bad News
because
Barnes.
Of the way he played ball. Ironically,
these are the
that was
Celtics. See, I remember the cornbread Maxwells, people like that. I remember.
Well, then you get into the. You switch. We blew past Hondo, who was my guy.
Oh well, I know. We'll get to Hondo. That was your boy. He was your guy.
But cornbread. That was the Bird era. That was the early '80s. Bird and corn. It was before McHale.
Right.
Cornbread. Hey, he was kind of funky, with the weird moves and stuff. But he was a good defense. He had those little duck and under little moves. Had a decent little weird looking quick shot. And he was good. He used to play Bernard King pretty tough, I remember. He used to cover Bernard.
And did the Celtics, Maravich played for the Celtics, right? And then so did...
Played the one year.
Tiny Archibald played for the Celtics, right?
Yeah, they won a championship with Tiny against the Rockets in 80-81.
Right.
Pistol comes the next year, at the end of the year, and I think he was trying to hang out for one more championship because the Celtics were, of course, contenders, and Philly beat them in the Eastern Championship, and Philly goes into win the 80. I think it was 83, right, when Philly won it. They beat Boston that year, and Pistol retired. So that was his probably one shot to win the title. It was fun to watch because he had the offense.
All right, I'm going to give you a comparison. You got to choose one.
Go ahead.
Russell, Havlicek, and Jones versus Bird, McHale, and Parrish.
Oh.
Pick one.
Oh. You mean in a 3-on-3 game?
A 3-on-3 game. You got Russell, Havlicek, and let's say Casey Jones. We'll pick that era, right? Casey Jones against. Then we'll go Cowens. I'm getting confused. Cowens.
Cowens, Havlicek, and
right,
JoJo.
Right, and JoJo. Or Bird, Parrish, or McHale. What was the best era of Celtics basketball, in your opinion?
Well,
I mean, three great eras, right? You had three great teams,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. Well, the best team I ever saw was the 80 that I saw. I don't remember the 60s teams, though. I mean, you got to say they might have been the best because they won 8 in a row.
Right.
I mean, you can't, 1 year you could be great, but if you're great, if you win 5 in a row, that puts you over the one guy that wins the one good year. Like the Lakers in '73. When they won, the '72 they won 69. But that was the best year I ever saw. This '86 Celtics. But if you go on those eras, I think any team that has Russell on it, you got to go with Russell, Havlicek, and just pick anybody. I think that's the team.
You think
you can't go wrong with Russell. He was that dominating to me.
What would you have thought if Len Bias ever played for the Celtics? What would have happened if he didn't?
Yeah, well, that was the dream, Right. I mean, they got the draft, they got him. They just come off their best year ever, 68-14, and they would blow them by everybody. They beat Houston in that last Game 6 of Boston by like 28 points. Walton, McHale in his prime, young
and
Bird.
then they would have put Len Bias on that team. Can you imagine?
Yeah, Len Bias, the top by far college player. The athletic, that was like what they would need. The athletic
right?
guy.
He was drafted in '86.
Drafted in '86.
He died 48 hours later after he was drafted. Is that amazing?
It was 48 hours. Is that what it was? Okay.
Terrible.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I wasn't really devastated because I didn't know him, but it was like, oh shoot, man, I would have been, then we would have had another 10 years. That was my mindset, because they're all gonna get old.
Yeah, you were right.
Len Bias would have been the young guy, and it's okay. Now we got another 10 years of this, so we're good through at least the mid '90s, with championship caliber team. So I was on a high when they got him, but it wasn't meant to be. Tragic.
Yeah, What were your opinion of the Pitino years? Remember when he said Larry Bird is not walking through that door? Remember that when he was trying to build the Celtics?
Yeah. Well, that's when they made
the playoffs, though.
I will. Yeah, that was into the '90s. They had the Reggie Lewis, and then
right.
I became removed a little bit after the Bird era. What I was doing? I was going to a lot of Nets games. I had season tickets in the front row. I would go to half the games, like 21 games.
Right.
And the Celtics changed teams. They just didn't have the same kind of aura to them. And D Williams, is that his name? D Williams. No, what's his name? D that guy.
Oh, I know what you mean. Not Wilkins.
Yeah.
What was his name? D. Come on, intern, help us out. D. We can't think of it. D.
It'll
hit you when the show's over.
Yeah, right.
When the show's over.
So, when wait, our show's over?
No, I said when the show's over, we'll figure out who D is. we can't think of the name. We're so prepared.
I don't know how to get intern.
Where is the intern? Is she there? Oh my gosh!
Oh, D Brown.
D Brown.
Yeah.
We know D Brown.
What's
some other name?
I got off the Celtics in the '90s. I became a Nets fan. I got into Jason Kidd, and
all right. So you didn't care about when Doc Rivers coached them and all that
like
stuff.
The Yankees. No, Yankees.
Well, you
I'm all the way
up,
through every
wow.
year. I kind of lost the interest. Of course, now I lost the interest, but back then
forget it. I don't even know who's on the team. All I know is who's on the team. I know the coach. I know the coach, but I hate the NBA. This is a sports show. I hate the NBA. College basketball.
It was cool too with the Celtics. You know me. I'm all Celtics in '60s, '70s, '80s. That's my thing.
Right.
The parquet floor. What do you think of the parquet floor?
I used to love the parquet floor. Actually, I always thought it had something to do. I always thought it had something to do with the butter. I didn't understand the parquet floor. Remember the butter parquet, the margarine?
Oh, you thought that's why?
Yeah, that's where I thought it came from. The parquet floor, right? There was like parquet margarine. I didn't know why. They started like that parquet margarine. Oh, Hank Finkel was the man. Finkel is a man.
He was a man for 1 year. For 1 year.
Finkel is a man. That movie with Jim Carrey. Oh God. Yep. So
But then
yeah.
you didn't, I can't leave without talking about my guy Havlicek.
Hey, talk about Havlicek. Here's what I know about Havlicek. He went to Ohio State. He was on the Olympic team with Jerry Lucas, so I remember.
Right.
He was considered the best sixth man in basketball, but he played actually more minutes as a sixth man than people did as a starter, right? He just basically didn't start the game, and then he just kind of they threw him in, right?
He finished the game.
And I remember he had that
game.
leaning jump shot. That's all I remember.
Right.
And he was always at the right place at the right time, right?
He was. He never stopped moving. He was. He became a starter into the Russell era, like halfway up there. In the mid to late '60s, he started. And
does this remind you? Does this remind you of anything? Havlicek steals the ball. Havlicek steals the ball.
Yeah.
Does that remind you of anything?
That's his claim to fame. But
Johnny Most.
Yeah. He was another one of my guys. I got his autograph when I was a kid.
That was the worst play ever. That when Havlicek stole the ball, the guy throwing the ball in obviously wasn't paying attention. They were standing right there.
Too.
They made it like a great steal. The guy threw it right at him. It was like, I think he forgot he was there.
Russell was taking the ball in, and then he messed up. He threw the ball in bounds, and it hit the back of the backboard. I don't know if you knew the lead up to it.
No.
So they were going to run out the clock, so he screws up.
And what year is this?
Now the other team, this is, I think it's 63, 62, 63 in that year. I think it was Havlicek's rookie year, early 60s, I think it was 63. So Russell messes it up. The other team inbounds the ball, and and then that's what happened. Yeah, he threw it right to him, and he didn't really steal it. He kind of just knocked it back,
And then the other miracle was when Don Nelson, he hits the back of the iron, and that was since the Lakers, right? And then the inbounds, Nelson gets it, top of the key, goes boing, it goes straight up. Because that's what everyone said. They're the luckiest team in sports. That's why everyone started to hate them because they got all the breaks. The luck of the Irish.
Well, they were up by 2. It was a close game. Celtics were up by 16 most of the game. Lakers came furiously back. Russell's last year, and then Nelson hits that shot you're talking about, hits the back iron and goes up over the backboard 18 feet and right down. So that gave him the 4-point lead, with 25 seconds left or something. So that was pretty important,
All I remember about Don Nelson is that he always used to fix his hair at the foul line. Remember, he used to put his hands through his hair?
Remember that, yeah. Yep. I used to do his foul shot,
with the fingertips. With the fingertips. Do people remember this stuff? Yeah. Look up Don Nelson on YouTube. He had that funny free throw. He had the fingertip feather shot.
And he always pushed his hair back with his fingers before the shot.
He became a good coach too. He actually has one of the top 5 amounts of wins in NBA history, right? As coaches.
Yeah, the Bucks, the Golden State Warriors,
but never won a championship, right?
I don't believe so. No, not with those teams. No. Think of the players though. There were so many. Dave Cowens coached. I mean, just all those players. Havlicek never coached. I always wondered why.
I think Finkel coached the middle school when he got out. He was a middle school coach.
He went to the middle school
team. The Finkster, yeah, Finkel.
But they were something else. They were something else. Yeah. You know what I loved about the team when they would win? When Auerbach would smoke a cigar on the bench. Tell me that's not cool.
Like rubbing it
you got to
in.
love that, right? Rubbing it in on the bench.
Red on round ball.
Can anybody do that now? You think smoking a cigar at the end, before you win?
That would be great. We'd love that, especially today. That is so politically incorrect. I love it. I would love it
if that happened. Would you?
Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to come out.
Someone's got to do that.
No mask. Coughing.
Yeah, just puffing the cigar. Yeah, you're
coughing,
up by
smoking a cigar, right? Coughing on the sidelines, smoking a cigar. Boy, this is how we covered basketball. You see, this is how basketball should be covered from a fun standpoint. I think
you're right. I mean, it was fun back then. They played the team aspect. The back door, the 10-foot jumper was in, the bank shot, the pick and roll. Do they even do pick and rolls now? I don't even know if they even do that.
No, I don't know forget it, pick and rolls. The game is too wide open to do that stuff now.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can't relate. It's not relatable now. I mean, I cannot relate to these players. I mean, they're too big. They're too quick. They're dunking. They're shooting like 40-foot 3-point shots. How can you relate to it? At least the old guys. I mean, they're playing.
Bring back the Celtics. Bring them back.
Bring them back. Never again will we see that. 11 out of 13. I don't think we're ever going to see that. What do you think? I mean,
no. What about who was the coach who went to Villanova? Chris Ford, right? Chris Ford was the coach.
Chris Ford, yeah.
Right? He played for them.
He was a coach for a while, right? He played for them. Yeah, he was a coach. Larry Bird coach. Pacers.
So now
Kevin
we don't like the
McHale
Celtics
coach.
anymore. We don't even like the NBA anymore. So we're just kind of working off past memories,
Yeah, well, that's it's funner that way,
Johnny Most.
I've nothing like him. Can you imagine an announcer sounding like that now?
No. Hey, did you hear
Johnny
something?
Most, right?
These three. I'm going to name 4 players.
Okay.
4 players have won 10 MVPs in total for the Celtics. 4 players, 10 most valuable player awards in the history of the Celtics.
Like in the total? Out of the 4, the total was 10? Okay.
Total 10.
Yeah, asking me or you're telling me?
10. These 4 players won 10 MVPs between 1960s and the 1980s. Not, in total, 4 players won 10 MVPs. Can you name them? Let me get the music here. Hold on.
All right, I'm not going to cheat. Well, I could definitely name. I think I can.
I did the bullseye. What's that? You can get. Go ahead.
From what, the 60s into the 80s?
60s to the 80s, there was 4 players that won a total of 10 MVPs.
All right, I'm going to go Bird with 3. I'm going to go Cowens with 1, and I'm going to go Russell with 6.
And
how's that?
That's the last one was Bob Cousy.
Bob Cousy. Cousy, that would have been in the 50s, right?
Okay, late 50s. It would have been the 50s. I'm sorry on that one. I guess so.
It would have been before Russell. I
Right.
think. When did he? He didn't win it in the Russell era, did he?
Who, Cousy?
Yeah. When did he win that championship?
Now you're going to make me look this up again. Intern.
I'm curious. I mean, I don't think it was during the Russell era. I think it was
before Russell.
Before that.
Before Russell, really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll have to ponder that.
MVP, no All-Star. He was great in 54.
Uh-oh. While you're pondering that, we're going over our time limit here.
Okay.
Management
that was fun,
is beeping.
man.
The management is beeping. All right, we're going to end it. I know. Don't worry about it. We're going to end it.
The light's blinking. Okay.
Yeah, the management. The management. I hate management. I'm rebelling. I'm going out on my own.
Hey, 57. It was during the Russell era. He won it during 57.
See, I told you. We know.
There you go. You're right.
Well, we cover the Boston Celtics. We have plenty of more to cover. We'll do that again next time. Always something new. Maybe we'll talk about the Honeymooners again. Well, that's the show. See you next time. Remember, the best is yet to come.
Every